Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. I am your host, Ed Dentzel. It's been very calm last couple days here in Madeira Beach, Florida. Not as windy, a little warmer. Heck, it's almost like March. And what a contrast it is to what happened in the Northeast this past weekend. I watched some of those time-lapse videos from New York City and elsewhere with the snow coming down really, really fast. And I think there's like a skating rink in there in one of the shots. Just amazing. I don't miss it at all. I lived in Pennsylvania for 28 years. I went to school, college at a place where we got the Lake Erie snow effect. I can remember. I'm going to say it was in March of 1993. Man, I am old. It seemed like we got 3 feet of snow in Grove City, Pennsylvania. I remember that day being outside in shorts because I was an idiot. And it's fun to look back on it now, and I can remember having to drive places with the roads and going along at 20 miles an hour. I was listening to sports radio in Pittsburgh this past weekend, and they didn't even get as much snow as eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Delaware did, and Maryland and West Virginia. But guys were saying that they lived 2 miles away from the radio station. It took them a half hour to get there. I don't miss any of that stuff at all. And anybody that chooses to live in those areas, you get all the credit in the world. I don't know how you do it. The last time that I even came close to driving in snow, it snowed a few times when I lived in Las Vegas, and I can remember, I'm going to say it was 2009, December 2009, that I was coming back from LA driving a huge box truck. And in some of those mountain passes between the cities going back to Las Vegas, so going northeast, there was snow, and there was actually a wreck caused by snow on the 15, and I had to sit there and wait, I'm going to say an hour, while the cops cleared it all out. I think that was the last time. So there's a reason I lived in Las Vegas, and now there's a reason I live in Florida, and it's to avoid what happened in the Northeast this past weekend. You can email me at edwarddentzel@reagan.com. You can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter account is Dentzel Domain, all one word, no space in between. I say I tweet there an average of about 12 times a day, mostly on stories. I link to stories that I'm reading at that particular time. I'd like other people to see what I'm reading so they can read it for themselves, because a lot of those stories eventually do make it onto this show. Let's begin with the Tea Party today. The reason I'm doing this, the reason I'm starting here today, is there was an article written on Breitbart.com by a woman. Her name is Debbie Dooley. She calls herself one of the 22, now how it's not 21 or 23, I'm not sure. I don't know how you'd even break it down. She claims to be one of the 22 co-founders of the Tea Party movement. I guess that would be in 2009. And she claims that she's been working for conservative causes since 1976. So I was 6 years old when she started into politics, doing whatever she's been doing. And then finally with the Tea Party coming online, I don't know if it was her idea or whoever's idea, the name that came up, but she made a name for herself in Tea Party circles. I want you to know, though, before reading this article, I'd never heard of her. Don't know who she was. And as you know, I do this show, research is allowed, and in all of my reading, never have run across her name before. But she must be somebody. She's writing this article. It's a special article. I don't think she's a regular contributor. she gets to write this article and why she is supporting Donald Trump. Before I give you my analysis, you should also know I've never really considered myself to be part of the Tea Party. And this is another topic that's come up maybe for a minute or two here and there on the show. I'm not one of these people. I'm a conservative. That's why I do the show. But I'm not much of a group guy. To get together with a bunch of people and go somewhere and cheer on a politician who gives a speech, given my personality, that's just kind of strange to me. I know it's not morally wrong, it's not ethically wrong or anything like that. Just behavior-wise, I'm just not into it. The closest that I ever got to that, and this is where I'm going to be going with the discussion about the Tea Party and this particular woman's support of the Tea Party, is in 2010 when I worked, I'm going to say, for about 4 months in the offices of Danny Tarkanian when he was running for the Republican nomination for the Senate in Nevada. And whoever won that would eventually run against Harry Reid. Now we know, well, maybe you don't know, but I distinctly remember that Sharon Angle, the only Sharon that I've ever known in my life who spells her name with 2 R's, won that. And at one point in that competition between her, Danny Tarkanian, and Sue Loudon, was that, man, that name comes out of nowhere. Sharon Angle ended up winning. And Sharon Angle, though, at one point was nowhere to be seen in any of the polls in Nevada, but she ended up coming from behind and winning. That is my experience in politics, and that was also my first experience with the Tea Party, because what ended up happening in that situation in 2010, Danny Tarkanian was plenty conservative. Not a very good public speaker. Nice guy. Met him personally. Good guy. I still have one of his t-shirts. Danny Tarkanian for Senate that I wear to the gym once in a while. I can do that when you're in Florida. Probably wouldn't want to do that if I was going to the gym in Nevada. That'd be kind of weird. But the Tea Party Express, which was a group that got together, became corporatized, became a business in 2010, came in and took over Sharon Angle's campaign. Now, I know that most other Tea Party groups out there are not like Tea Party Express, but it did tell me something. I noticed that. And what I noticed is that people were going to use the Tea Party name for other reasons than the pushing forward of conservatism. Because what happens in that case, if you don't know, Tea Party Express would come into a particular into a particular state. Maybe they're still doing it now. And look at one of the candidates and say, hey, we can help you out. They were really like a political consultant firm. We'll come in, we'll run your campaign, we'll run ads, and any money that we raise for the campaign, we get to keep a piece of it. Now, it didn't matter that Sharon Angle was the worst of the 3 candidates. But back at that time, all it took was the Tea Party, any Tea Party name, to be attached to her, and she rocketed to the front. I was in the offices when this was happening. I watched it happen from day to day. I talked with the other people, volunteers who were working in the office day to day. And it just was something that was hard to believe, and it was saddening because we knew what was going to happen that November. There was no way that Sharon Angle was going to beat Harry Reid. Just no way. And even though it was closer than I thought it was going to be, but there was no way. Danny Tarkanian and Sue Loudon, who were once again plenty conservative, would have beat Harry Reid, and Harry Reid would be a distant memory at this point. But Tea Party Express came into Nevada, didn't latch on to the person who had the best possibility of beating Harry Reid, and I'm not even saying it would have been Danny Tarkanian. Maybe it would have been Sue Loudon. They picked the person who was in third place on purpose. On purpose. Because that was probably the only place that they could wedge themselves in. I don't think they could have wedged themselves into the Danny Tarkanian campaign or Sue Loudon's group. Didn't matter that Sharon Angle in the end would have no hope of beating Harry Reid. But they did it anyway. That was my first experience with any group known under the Tea Party name. And what I discovered is that people were going to use it for business ventures as much as they were for political ventures, for ventures based on character and integrity and values and small government. The people saw a way, well, they can make a career out of this. They can make a business out of it. And I have no problem with that as long as they are embracing the best candidate, not the candidate that can make the Tea Party Express the most money. There's a difference. And I know this has gone on across the United States, in other places with other candidates, but it was certainly high profile in Nevada because Harry Reid, defeating him was going to get no better. It was not going to get any easier than it was in 2010. And if you can't beat Harry Reid in 2010, I don't know what to tell you. And they couldn't. And the Tea Party has made a lot of other bad decisions politically the past 5-6 years. So getting back to this article, and I think I continue to think about that when I think about the Tea Party. And it's probably the reason that the Tea Party, those words don't come up much on this show, despite me being a conservative. I think that there's something that goes on. There was a saying in some movie, any one person is fine. It's groups you have to be afraid of. Must have some movie that I saw years ago. But there's something about that still sticks with me. But getting back to Debbie Dooley, she brings up, I read the article that she wrote, and I once again, I think to what I talked about yesterday regarding Laura Ingraham. That in Laura Ingraham, she was worried about the narrowing, the losing of customers, the losing of followers at National Review. And here we see Debbie Dooley talking about how Trump is going to bring more activists, new activists, groups of conservatives, even more conservatives into the Tea Party, into the Republican Party. And I asked myself, well, where have they been? If they're truly conservative, first of all, I don't know how anybody could be turned conservative listening to anything Donald Trump says. I maybe understand people who are already conservative latching onto him. I don't like it. It's hard for me to understand, but it's within the realm of possibility. And we know a lot of people are doing that right now. But nobody who is new to politics and listens to Donald Trump is going to turn conservative. You can't tell me that. So I'm not sure who Debbie Dooley is talking about. I don't know. If they're conservative, they know that there's this party called the Republican Party, and they know that there's this group, sort of the grassroots people. If they don't know that, I don't know where they've been, if they just come in from another planet. See, this is why I say that she, along with all these other people, are fooling themselves. They're fooling themselves. And it seems to me, once again, in her case and Laura Ingram's case, that they show their hand. That's that tell, that poker tell that I talked about yesterday. That tells me they're just more worried about having more customers than actually having any movement based on any sort of core principles. Because I'm not sure that Donald Trump shares core principles with your average conservative. I'm just not sure about that. And I even have in my notes here, written under that, she's delusional. You know, there's a problem. See, hey, I want conservatism, the conservative group in the United States to be as big as possible. That's what this show is about. That's what every conservative show, blog, TV show, radio show should be about. But it doesn't mean much if within that group there are people who really aren't conservative. And see, this gets back to my other point maybe about the Tea Party of why I've never considered to be a part of it. The truth is, liberals have a point when they talk about the Tea Party, about how they want small government, but don't touch my Social Security. Don't touch my Medicare. They have a point. I'm not saying that that's the case with everybody in the Tea Party, but it certainly is the case with a lot of people within the Tea Party. Mm-hmm. And that's something we as conservatives, we don't like to talk about. And in that way, maybe we are, not me personally, but maybe some conservatives are like Donald Trump, where what he is offering is not small government. This comes up in an article at Red State by Leon Wolf, and he's referencing Rush Limbaugh, how Rush Limbaugh makes this completely shameless defense of Donald Trump. One of those points that just drives me nuts. One of those facts going on out there that drives me nuts. The Donald Trump never talks about small government, but I thought that's what the Tea Party is about. But you know what? If you have small government, then you don't have government programs. And you know what? Social Security, Medicare, those programs, they're going to get cut. They're just going to. Instead, what does Donald Trump offer? He offers big government. He says, well, as is pointed out, there's a video out there, talks 10 minutes about a skating rink that some government is taking, some city government or state government is taking a long time to build. He never once questions whether a state government should be building a skating rink or not. He just says, well, I'll do it better. That's the difference. And that's the trap that too many conservatives have fallen into. It's the trap that too many conservatives who followed George W. Bush fell into. If Laura Ingraham wants to bring up George W. Bush, then I can bring him up too and say how he's more like Donald Trump than any of these conservative media leaders want to admit. George W. Bush was a guy who thought we can manage conservatism we can be conservative by running big government better. That's Donald Trump's attitude. And dare I say it, there's only a couple people running for president on the Republican side who are contrary to that. Rand Paul, Ted Cruz. That's it. They are the only two who have gone out of their way to try to slow down the growth of government, stop the growth of government, and take it back in the opposite direction. And both on notable occasions, through the shutting down of the government, through filibusters, and other things. Mm-hmm. So if you're a Tea Party member, if you are a true Tea Party member for the reasons that the Tea Party started, at the grassroots level back in 2009, or maybe even before that, going back to George W. Bush's time, believing in small government, then there's no way, there is no way you can support Donald Trump. You can talk all you want about how he's going to bring more people in. I don't want those people part of us if they don't believe in smaller government. It does us no good if they come in thinking that the size of the government is good the way it is. Does us no good. You know, I know, sounds like a purity test. If you can't, you don't even have to bring up a program. Just think $1 smaller at a time. If you are a person who can't get with that, you are not conservative. You don't have to bring up illegal immigration. You don't have to bring up being pro-life. You don't have to bring up the military. You don't have to mention taxes. You don't have to mention Russia. You don't have to mention terrorism. But if you are not a fan of the government getting smaller $1 at a time, you're not a conservative. No matter what else you may say. Well, Donald Trump, he's not a person who believes government should be smaller. He's not. But here we have it, Breitbart, Debbie Dooley saying this is why she supports Donald Trump, despite the fact that there is another candidate running who's doing pretty well in Iowa and is raising a lot of money, who has done things as a senator. And once again, I'm not to say that Ted Cruz is perfect. He's not. None of these candidates are perfect. But it's not like Ted Cruz is getting 1% in Iowa. He is a viable alternative. And he does have conservative credentials, and he's hated in the Senate. What else, if you're a true Tea Party person, the reason that the Tea Party got started, he should be your dream. But no, one of the 22 co-founders of the Tea Party, it's how she terms herself, is going for Donald Trump. Isn't that weird? Is it not weird? She may say, well, we don't think that Ted Cruz can win. Well, no wonder. No wonder you don't think he can win. Because you're supporting Donald Trump. And because probably a lot of people who are around you are supporting Donald Trump. You're all wrong. That's why Ted Cruz can't win. Because you have gone against your values. It's not Ted Cruz's fault. It's your fault. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, I don't think Ted Cruz can win, so I'm going to support Donald Trump. Yeah, but Ted Cruz is more closer to your values. Yeah, but he can't win. Well, maybe he can't win because the people with his values aren't supporting him. You know, did the chicken or the egg come first here? You know, you think that he can't win because the umbrella, Ted Cruz's umbrella, doesn't cover enough people. Well, no wonder his umbrella doesn't cover enough people because some of his own people, some people who think like him, are supporting Donald Trump. Well, no wonder. And there's, of course, that part of it where I think a lot of conservatives have bought into the mass media statement that Ted Cruz is an unlikable guy. And he comes across the wrong way. So once again, this is one more reason that I'm not part of the Tea Party. I'm never going to go to an event. I'm never going to give them money. I surely am not going to ask for any money from them. You know. Even though I do think that I'm a better conservative than your average Tea Party person. And I'm certainly a better conservative, not to pat myself on the back too hard, than Debbie Dooley. There's another part to this whole Tea Party thing that has become a turnoff to me, and And once again, we are certainly self-congratulatory, aren't we? Calling ourselves great Americans, I think it was Sean Hannity that started that. We call each other patriots. We bring up the Constitution. Do you ever realize on this show that I don't know what most of the other people do on Red State Talk Radio. You notice I don't bring up that stuff very much on here. I bring up the Constitution, maybe the Constitution of any of those words comes up. But when somebody calls, I know that people do that I know they are doing it in a nice way, for example, on my Twitter feed. When I follow them, they'll write me back saying, they'll call me a patriot. Just let it go. But that's not really the way I think of myself. And it would be weird if I did, I think. A great American. Am I a great American? I don't know. But those kinds of thoughts over time, calling each other that, can certainly make a person's head pretty big. That's another feeling that I get when I read this article by Debbie Dooley. It certainly is congratulatory when really the Tea Party shouldn't be happy. If they're sticking to their principles, they shouldn't be happy. They should not be excited about supporting Donald Trump. I can understand, once again, going to say this again, if he was the only person running on the Republican side, I get it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? But with choices still left, and already articles are coming out how they're already supporting this person in the nomination process or that, when there are other choices that are who are obviously more conservative, it must be something else. But will they get challenged? Will their donations from true conservatives out there go down? They should. It should. You as a conservative, if you read this article by Debbie Dooley, you should never write a check to another Tea Party group until their attitude changes. But I think this has happened for all the reasons that I think they're more worried about members instead of conservatives. I think that they're self-congratulatory. I think there's an arrogance that has that is built inside all of this. And on top of everything else, something I touched upon a few minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago, they want conservatism, but they like their government programs too. They like that. I think too many conservatives would be happy just that we just got rid of Obamacare and didn't do much else, and we built that wall and fought terrorism, and that would be good enough. It's not. It's not. But I think they've convinced themselves of it. We have a growing federal government that the reason it grows is because of entitlement programs that continue to get bigger and bigger. And I believe your average Tea Party member doesn't think those programs should go away. The truth is, there's a lot of Tea Party people who love what they get from the government. They love it. So I don't know how far a movement can go when that is a belief. It can go a little ways, but then that attitude allows somebody like Donald Trump to come in the back door. I think that that's part of it. When your ideas and your character are not true to what you say, Your behavior is different from what you say. It allows somebody who's a charlatan to come in and fool you. And that's how this article by Debbie Dooley gets written. But I got to go to the break. You've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio.
Red State Talk Radio. Lock it in and rip the knob off.
I know you're watching, so pay attention. You hate my freedom, my religion, and my country. You hate me for speaking my mind. You try to control me with violence and intimidation. You think you can muzzle me with fear? Don't ever confuse me for my politicians or my media. I am an American, free-born and free-bred. And I will call you out for who you are. An Islamic extremist who would kill me for my beliefs. You don't intimidate me. My freedom is more powerful than anything you can possibly do. And I will never, never surrender my rights to your terror. I will say what I think, worship according to my beliefs, and raise my children how I see fit. And I defend it all with the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. I cower to no one, because I am the National Rifle Association of America, and I am freedom's safest place.
This is Donna Fiducia. For 26 years, I was a member of the mainstream media, most recently as an anchor at the Fox News Channel. Ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media has failed you miserably. Red State Talk Radio will not fail you. Tune into Red State Talk Radio at redstatetalkradio.com, the dominant force in conservative Internet talk radio.
I lost my brother Frank in the Battle of Iwo Jima.
He served on 4 combat tours
in Vietnam,
in Iraq,
Afghanistan.
There's a life that was lost behind that pin.
I put it on for my wife,
For my husband,
my brother,
my dad,
My son.
we wear it because we honor those that we lost.
To learn more about the stories behind the Gold Star Pins, visit goldstarpins.org.
This is Jeff Carlisi from the Band 38 Special. You're listening to Red State Talk Radio. Lock it in and rip the knob off.
Back at the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. I want to continue to talk about the Tea Party. I was looking at a few notes during the break. I've written down here Fight Club. You ever see that movie? I'm not a huge fan of that movie. Even though it's considered to, well, who was it? David Fincher, right? That directed that. Otherwise, I'm a fan of David Fincher's work. But that movie, just a little too weird for Ed Dentzel. But when did the Fight Club start going bad? Remember the rules? You you never talk about Fight Club. It started going wrong when it started to become corporatized. And it started to become a business, and it started to get big. Remember, if you've seen that movie, if you haven't seen it, you should see it, even though I'm not the biggest fan of it. A lot of people do like it. Brad Pitt, Edward Norton did fine jobs in the movie. Once again, though, just a little weird, kind of a weird movie for me. Because that, whatever was trying to be captured of what it means to be a man in that movie is something I can't identify with. So maybe that was part of it. But it starts out this very pure idea about guys getting together and, beating each other up and trying to feel like real men. And then it gets spread, it gets diluted, and becomes commercialized and kind of falls apart. This is kind of what's going on with Tea Party. Started off as a great idea. And then it got, can I say this word on the radio? Bastardized. This is what happens. If Donald Trump, and this is the point I made yesterday about Ann Coulter, Rush Limbaugh, Laura Ingraham, had they supported somebody like Donald Trump 25 years ago, none of these people ever end up being anybody. Nothing. Nobody. If they get on the radio, do their writing, and they claim they're conservatives, but they're kind of just starting out, just kind of new on the scene, and they embrace a candidate who's not conservative like Donald Trump isn't, Rush Limbaugh and the rest of them, they don't go anywhere. They just go on with their life's work. People blow them off. Well, these people, they can't be trusted. They call themselves conservatives, but then they embrace somebody who isn't conservative. Well, they can get away with it now all these years later because they've, I guess, built up this audience. But you wonder, are they leading their audience or is the audience leading them? Well, with the Tea Party, it's the same thing. And when it started, that the first candidate that they embraced in running for a big office, maybe not president, but senator, something like that, governor of a huge state like Texas or Florida, if the first person they embraced had the values of Donald Trump, the Tea Party would have gone nowhere. Nowhere. Starting out with the idea of small government, then embracing somebody who just says that I can just manage big government better. Tea Party would have gone nowhere. Tea Party Express, none of it would have existed. But here they are, just a few short years later, embracing somebody like that. And that's what I talk about with, it gets distorted. The message gets distorted. The values get distorted. The character of all of these grassroots people get distorted. And they start talking about, we need more people instead of just sticking to your values and just allowing the people to come to you naturally. No different than light on your back porch during the summer that attracts. Now, in that case, you're killing bugs. You don't want to do that here. You don't want to kill people. But just naturally going, just being there and people getting attracted to your movement because of what you say, what you do, not trying to embrace something outside of conservatism to bring people in. But I wrote this quote down. Trump has support among demographics which Tea Party and the conservative movement have been working hard to attract. Who? Are there really Tea Party and conservative people out there trying to attract people who aren't conservative? This is one of the, once again, this is like, you're a great American, you're a patriot. This is a throwaway line. It doesn't make any sense. I thought what they're thinking, well, Hispanics, blacks, we don't need to embrace Donald Trump to have them be attracted to conservatism. They know what conservatism is. Once again, Donald Trump isn't conservative, so it shouldn't matter. And we don't want these people to come to conservatism because they've been tricked. Because I would say if they're following Donald Trump and they came to conservative that way, they have been tricked. And they're going to be disgruntled very quickly. Because they're not conservative. They know it is. They don't like it. But they're being told that Donald Trump is conservative. He's not. What Donald Trump talks about is not conservatism, so you can't credit him with bringing people to the conservative movement because what he's talking is not conservative. The people are going to show up and say, oh, this is conservative. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's not. Oh. How does that help anybody? You know. It's no different than if you're a guy and you're with your friends. Yeah, we're going to the strip club tonight. It's going to be great. Okay, yeah, I want to go to the strip club. And then you end up at the male strip club. And you didn't know that maybe your friends were attracted to men and you're the straight guy. Well, you're going, maybe you're going just to be, nice to your friends, but it's not what you wanted. Yeah, you're a customer, but you're not going to be a returning customer. And that's what that feels like here. If everything that true conservatives have been doing over the last so many years isn't enough to attract people to us, I surely don't want somebody who's not conservative, claiming to be conservative, to get people to come to our side. That's how a movement does get diluted. And that's what has happened to the Tea Party. And that's why it does seem that it doesn't have the influence that it has anymore. And that's why you do find Tea Party people who are embracing Donald Trump. I know it sounds a little convoluted, and I agree it is. But it still matters. It's still important. Doesn't matter how convoluted it is. It's very important. You have to understand the dynamics of all of this to try to make sense of it. So you don't continue to do it. So you don't do it again. So it's just disheartening to me to see some Tea Party person, even though I've never heard of her, writing something like this, to embrace somebody that she would have rejected just a mere 6 years ago. At least she should have rejected 6 years ago. Who knows how conservative really Debbie Dooley is? Who knows? Who knows? Anybody who starts talking about need new activists that I start to question that. People should come to conservatism because of our values, because of the way we talk about it. We don't need clever marketing. We don't need, most of all, we don't need a false prophet, which is what Donald Trump is. No movement has ever benefited from a false prophet. But that's what too many conservatives seem to be embracing. And I will continue to try to stop it. I'm not sure I'm having a lot of success right at this second. Unfortunately, the success will come for something like this. The success will come no different than an alcoholic, when you just get tired of being tired anymore. And these people who people who call themselves conservative, embrace people who aren't conservative, they'll either stop doing that because they'll get tired of being tired, they'll get tired of failing, or they'll just die never changing their ways and they'll just be failures. I don't know. I think that's the only two directions it can go. In the meantime, they are keeping a lot of good men and women from public office. I remind you, it's not just about Donald Trump. It's about those politicians like Bobby Jindal, Scott Walker, Rick Perry, who are better conservatives than Donald Trump, who had to drop out because a lot of these Tea Party people embraced Donald Trump instead. Never forget that. Let's move on to something else. John McCain, I meant to talk about this last week. And I meant to talk about it when Sarah Palin did her speech for Donald Trump. We realized not so long ago that Donald Trump made those comments about John McCain. And I want to go in two directions here. John McCain and his relationship with Sarah Palin, and John McCain and his chance for re-election in Arizona. How do you think John McCain felt last week? We know what happened. Donald Trump got away with what he said about John McCain. I want people who don't get caught referencing John McCain getting shot down during the Vietnam War and being in the Hanoi Hilton for 5 years, and the injuries he continues to have to this day that just ravaged his body while he was a prisoner there. Made fun of him. Donald Trump got away with it. The funny part is, all these months later, Donald Trump and John McCain's politics are not much different from each other. If you think about it. Not that much different. Neither of them are conservative. But then you have Sarah Palin, who is a national figure because of John McCain alone. And then she gets up there and campaigns with Donald Trump, and the guy who made fun of her mentor. That's a bad look. But got thinking about it. Truthfully, I don't know if Sarah Palin's turning point for true conservatives was really last week, though. I would say that for many of them, and even kind of myself, the support that she has given John McCain when he ran for re-election in 2010, and the support that she's continued to give him since then, but then she goes and campaigns with Donald Trump. Seems like she can switch alliances pretty fast, doesn't it? A lot of people didn't like it, and that was once again going back to the Tea Party days when it's just getting started out, hoping that John McCain wouldn't get reelected in Arizona in 2010. Sarah Palin came in, said some nice things about him, and he got reelected. So that's an interesting part of this. I don't know if John McCain knew that Sarah Palin was going to go up and it was going to campaign with Donald Trump. It can't make Donald Trump or John McCain feel very good, even though I know that John McCain probably prefers Donald Trump over Ted Cruz, which once again is telling. John McCain will embrace a guy probably that made fun of his prisoner of war stint over a fellow senator. And why? Because of politics. No. It's something when a personal shot can have less effect on a politician than just a political disagreement. Donald Trump or John McCain probably dislikes both Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, but he dislikes Ted Cruz more. And he's choosing the guy who made fun of his time as a prisoner of war. That's something. I mean, that is one for the record books. The other point about John McCain is he's running for re-election this year. And his closest rival is Kelly Ward. And you know another funny part about this? Here is going to be, this is what happens when you can't follow your values. And your character is flawed. Your political character is flawed. You could have a situation, now keep in mind what I said. John McCain and Donald Trump's politics are not that much different. They're really not. Neither of them are conservative. Both of them believe in big government and just managing it better. Both of them have paid lip service to conservatives over the years. And they've also embraced Hillary Clinton at times. But here's going to be the weird part for Tea Party people and those conservatives who like Donald Trump. It could be a point this year. If Donald Trump does get the nomination, the Tea Party will be or somewhere down the road, before the nomination, but somewhere down the road, March, April, whenever Arizona has its elections to see if John McCain gets to run again, that you have these conservatives who are supporting Donald Trump, but they'll be for Kelly Ward, the Republican challenger, over John McCain, even though John McCain and Donald Trump are virtually the same person. But on the other hand, they'll be opposing Ted Cruz for his politics, I guess, and supporting Kelly Ward, even though Ted Cruz and Kelly Ward's politics are probably pretty similar. How's that for getting in a pretzel twist? It's very, see, as a guy like myself, a person like myself, it's hard to understand. It is. But this is what happens. You conservatives out there you've put yourself in this place. I haven't. Donald Trump hasn't. John McCain hasn't. Ted Cruz hasn't. Sarah Palin hasn't. None of the other Republicans. You are the ones who are choosing to do this on a daily basis. And I'm just trying to make predictions on how on what big decisions you're going to have to make somewhere down the road. I want to know how you're going to get up in the morning trying to rationalize supporting Donald Trump but not supporting John McCain. I want to know how you're going to get up in the morning and not support Ted Cruz but support Kelly Ward. For those, I guess those particularly in Arizona. I wonder if it will occur to you at all. Or you'll just get up thinking, well, I'm a great American, that's all that matters. I'm a patriot, that's all that matters. I have great self-esteem, that's all that matters. That's what I do on this show. I fight for conservatism here. I do not fight for particular candidates. I'm just trying to see if you conservatives out there are being consistent. Are you working for the cause? Or are you working for yourselves? Are you working for your vanity? Are you working because, are you working for conservatism just because of your fascination with a particular candidate? Because it makes you feel good? I'm just trying to figure this all out. I don't know. Complex times that we as conservatives have put ourselves into. Pretty, and we'll see what happens in Iowa. It's less than a week now. Iowa, less than a week. You should know, if you're a little worried about what is going on, whether you are a Trump supporter or not a Trump supporter, Cruz supporter, Rubio supporter, I'm going to make you feel good in telling you that I'm not sure any of these polls can predict anything. Back in 2012, Ron Paul was allegedly in first place with 22% of the vote. Rick Santorum, who ended up winning Iowa, was, a distant third, fourth, fifth? Well, he ended up winning the Iowa caucus in 2012. It wasn't Ron Paul. And I have to hope that Donald Trump is like Ron Paul. Cult of personality. Built on a lot of just him being Ron Paul, Donald Trump being Donald Trump. That doesn't get people to these places. So hopefully Donald Trump will also come in third place like Ron Paul did in 2012. I remind you can find my books at Amazon.com. Just do a search for Edward Dentzel. You can email me at edwarddenzel@reagan.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Dentzel domain, all one word, no space in between. You go to edwarddenzel.com where you can find all of my old Red State Talk Radio shows. You can go to edwarddenzel.com/book where you can download the first chapter of my next novel, The Comebacks. You can find me on Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, the iTunes Store. You can also find me on Facebook and LinkedIn. It's been a pleasure talking to you tonight. You've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio.